Hello, my name is Alex and I am the host of How Bizarre Podcast, and this is episode 20 of the series. Hopefully you'll like it and the show will make some traction in the time ahead. So, what is this podcast about? It's about storytelling, and especially about stories that are obscure, unknown to the wider public, strange and sometimes inexplicable, content that somehow never got the attention it deserved. Stories that are forgotten in the mists of time regardless if they happened yesterday or some centuries ago. So if you are attracted to bizarre, shocking or just plainly weird stuff, I think you'll find this podcast very informative and perhaps even entertaining. This podcast is for mature audiences and listener discretion is advised. All that being said, now let us dive into the 20th episode of How Bizarre Podcast. This episode is named Psicopata. The phenomenon of serial killers has long been ingrained in popular culture, to the extent that members of the elite of perpetrators of the ultimate crime, that is murder, are perceived with fascination by the masses. Such creatures are given disproportionate attention. The media is full of their feats. Just to clarify, serial killer is a person or persons who kill at least 3 victims with a period of cooling off between murders. Let's jump to the bandwagon then, with a hip twist of course. Never mind North America or Russia, let's go to Latin America this time. The case of the serial killer nicknamed the Zodiac Killer, who practiced his skills in the USA in the 60s and 70s, if not longer, is very well known. Films and documentaries have been made and books have been written about him. Not so for our killer of the day, the notorious Costarican murderer known simply as El Psicopata, meaning the psychopath, or alternatively El Descuartizador, or the dismemberer. Outside of everyday meridians, this maniac had a similar modus operandi as the Zodiac and the same ability to disappear after each kill, only to leave traces in Costa Rica, killing 31 victims from 1986 to 2002. Named El Psicopata, the killer often killed couples who went to lonely places to have sex or make out. But over time, that was not enough for his appetites, and on one occasion he massacred 6 schoolgirls and a teacher on a nature trip in what became known as the Death Triangle between the cities of Alajuela and Carthage. This maniac was somewhat of an equal opportunity killer because of his modus operandi. Although women were preferred, he didn't shy away from killing male victims given an opportunity. He often used the M3 grease gun submachine gun for the murders themselves, and for most of the victims he continued to cut off parts of the body, usually the breasts of the girls, which he probably collected as souvenirs. He is the only known serial killer to use submachine gun for his deeds. Ballistic tests performed on the bullets revealed that the caliber of the weapon was 45 ACP, very common one in North America. Costa Rican authorities have appealed to the FBI for help, but despite working together, the maniac remains at large to this day. It is not known whether he continued to kill because after 2002 the killings in the area stopped. Crime statute limit having expired this year in Costa Rica. Bizarrely, this means that today the killer can step into a police station and confess, and there's nothing they could do to arrest him. I am not certain that a murder should have a statute of limitation, but it seems that some countries, Latin American especially, have an extremely liberal judiciary. Even a complete monster such was Pedro Lopez, one of the most prolific serial killers ever, was only convicted to 21 years in prison, that being the highest possible sentence by law in the country. He kidnapped and killed hundreds of young girls and children. So it is not impossible for the killer to one day to appear in public and live carefree, because in Costa Rica, unlike many other countries, murder as a crime is also subject to obsolescence. There are many theories about who the killer is, from the next guerrilla from neighboring countries to a lonely madman. Costa Rica being an exception to the rule, all neighboring countries had their civil wars in the 80s. A Nicaraguan Contra? Perhaps. What role police corruption played in this case is a matter of debate. Another theory is that Zodiac himself emigrated to this obscure Latin American country only to continue his murderous way after investigation in California became hot enough for him to feel insecure. One theory is about the killer being so-called spoiled golden child, belonging to Silver Spoon class in Costa Rica and because of it, not being brought to justice. As in most countries in the world, upper classes are practically immune to prosecution. One such historical case was the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run who killed with impunity for more than a decade. It is a mystery why many maniacs kill loving couples. What is it that makes them angry when they look at a couple who is kissing or having sex? Does their inability to have any honest relationship with a human drive them to murderous madness? There was much debate as to profiling this madman. Some officials maintained that the maniac was organized killer, meaning that he carefully planned each of his murder to the last detail. Others claimed that he was a creature of opportunity, only killing after stalking his victims at a random pattern. Sexual motive was put forward, but it has to be known that he never raped a woman. As for men, he did rape and sodomize some of his male victims, inserting a metal pipe or a wooden stick up their anus. Possible pederast? Maybe. Composite sketch was made sometime into the investigation showing a male person with a hefty mustache in his early to mid-40s, but nothing came of it. 6 different suspects were investigated, but all in vain. El Psicopata remains one of the most dangerous serial killers that evaded justice in the history of criminology. I hope you all liked episode 20 of this podcast. Thank you so kindly for listening, and I will be back next time for episode 21 of the How Bizarre podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, sharing, and above all, subscribe to this channel, dear listener. Because, why not? Join me next time for another bizarre adventure through space and time. Cheerio.